Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
Hey, this is Heath with Team Table War Hawaii.
And welcome to The Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast, where we try to provide Dark Angels players with the tactical and hobby skills that they need in order to compete and enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours. Well, Heath, it's been a few months, unfortunately, but...
It has been a minute. It has been a minute.
I'm still in a basement, as you can see. I've made one move. May have found a place to stay closer to Indianapolis, away from family with my former roommate, which is pretty close to a couple of big game stores and the indie tournament scene, so hopefully that'll work out and get some more events in.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that would make it a lot easier to do content, right, if I'm actually like playing events and be like, hey, this is how I
around people that are generating content. Yeah. I completely agree.
Because I think one of the guys over there is, I think his name's Eddie Draper. I met him at Gen Con. He does Men at WA podcast, so like we'd also be able to do some crossovers and stuff. That would be pretty cool if we can get that all down.
That's always good.
All right, so for the podcast this month, the September podcast, got a couple changes here. So the new release thing is kind of died off unless you're thinking about getting the new Kill Team box, which I've got to look at the new Kill Team rules. They're actually pretty cool. I might actually try playing a game that doesn't have, 30, 40 minis in an army list for once, so that'd be kind of a big step for me. But instead we're going to talk about the eBay requisitions instead of new releases, because I found a place that people might want to go if they're looking for cheap minis. We're going to take a look at the Meta Watch, take a look at some of the information from the Florida Open, as well as some of the August-September meta reviews. And, it's not great reading for Dark Angels players, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Then in a featured segment, we're going to talk about picking secondaries. Then we'll review our monthly challenge from the last time we had the podcast. And then community interaction is kind of short this month, but I do have a question that was posed to me from a guy that sat at the paint and take table at Gen Con with me for over 16 hours, and we helped him, me and the team there were helping him work on this intercessor for 16 hours because he wanted to learn that heavy metal style.
Oh, wow.
So he was super hardcore into it. And so he did.
That's
he
cool.
asked me a question.
Yeah.
He asked me a question I couldn't answer because I was working at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, the answer I actually have for you, I can't say because it's not."
I can't give it to you. I think that's a good segue. So you went to Gen Con, right? Not just as a con attendee, but as a hired help for the Great Workshop.
Yeah, I got in as a temporary convention worker, and that was a pretty cool experience. There are things you had to sign where like we can't say this and that or the other and talk too much about what you did because company secrets and all that. Now that being said, like I ran a paint and take for 8 hours a day for 4 days and saw over 500 people. So I guess that's information like you would have learned if you'd gone, because like one of my buddies kept coming by every day to talk to me and couldn't because I literally was me and one other guy and 35 people around a paint table for 8 hours a day. So,
well, that's fine.
So like that was just sort of
that's
how
good
it was.
though. Yeah.
Oh, and it's really neat to like go in and see what the con is like from the other side, and like be in there early to help set up and tear down things like that, and to meet some of the teams. So if you actually get a chance to go to an open or a con with the U.S., North America, or the global team, where it's Mike Brandt and Ryan Scholzer. I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. I just called him Ryan, so that's what I remember. Ryan, they're both really cool guys, and your buddy Nate Goodfellow was there, and
shout out Nate Goodfellow, Team Texas.
Oh gosh, and then Max is pretty cool, and Brian, like all the dudes, they're like super cool dudes. So if you ever get asked to do something like that, I would definitely recommend it because it's a great time. The only other thing I think is kind of goofy is that you have to like start saying we instead of they, and like if you got a shirt on, like people like some vendors took some pot shots at me, bro. Like they were like, "Hey man, when am I going to get my stuff?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just here to teach people how to paint. I don't work logistics."
Oh no! You're the corporate we now.
Yeah, it was. That was interesting, but it was a blast. So if you ever if anybody gets a chance to ask to do something like that for any company, but particularly Games Workshop, it was awesome. So I highly suggest it. It was worth it.
Well, I would guess the only question I would really have would be, what's the hit rate for people just sitting down? Like, what's this game? We're painting stuff. You get how many hours with them, and then they come out, sold, not sold, like interested, but maybe they're going to pick something else. What's the conversion
factor? It looked like we
that?
had people for about 45 minutes on average, right? There was like that one guy in particular, and there's this other guy that I'm pretty sure he came from China or in some fashion, because he was asking questions at one of the reveal days about like getting the books translated into Chinese properly, because apparently in China right now, if you want to get a 40K book, you don't buy the Games Workshop official ones because they're so poorly translated, they don't make any sense. There's literally a third-party group of people that translate all the codexes, and that's what they use. And that guy was there. He came to the table, and he didn't paint one model, but he painted a couple different things, but he probably spent about 12 hours at the paint table. But those were sort of the two exceptions. We had most people were there about 45 minutes to an hour, and there was a pretty decent number of people that, asked us to, like, where can I buy this stuff? And they'd go over and buy. And there were a lot of people that were like, they were already Warhammer people that came in and they just wanted to get a free Space Marine or whatever. But a lot of people came in and like the Stormcast Vindictor, like the spear and shield guy for Stormcast that just came out with the Dominion box, very popular. People were really into that. Just sort of in the vacuum of like people who didn't know much about Warhammer at all, like they just kind of looked at the two models, so went, Space Marine guy, it's like looks like a Stormtrooper, probably can't hit anything, or a dude with a spear and a shield that looks like some sort of like Spartan Superman, and that guy won.
I will say I don't play AOS, but their models are just fire. Yep. They are sick. I have used a bunch of AOS models as like Eldari characters and stuff like that because they're so dynamic. Yeah, that design team has got their head on straight. They know what they're about.
Oh yeah, and then they got this like new dragon thing for Stormcast coming. I've been listening to the Honest Wargamer, and like that dude is like totally Rob, the guy that runs that, is like totally down for just running 6 dragons. He's like, that's all you need to do, run 6 dragons and you win. Yeah, so that was kind of how that worked out at Gen Con. It was pretty awesome. My feet were tired, but it was a pretty good deal, and I got these. They had leftover packs from the Florida GT, so I got one of those. Picked that up while I was there. That was pretty cool. So I got like all the objectives, which we're going to talk about, the secondaries. Got them all as cards here, so
okay,
it's pretty cool. I don't have to go flipping through a book. I can just like lay out cards now. So if you go to a GT, expect to get something similar to that. You'll just have all that stuff, so you don't have to keep flipping through your book.
To be fair, a Games Workshop run GT, like an open event, right? Yeah.
Which the next one's in New Orleans next weekend. And then there's the one in Texas, and then LA I think was like the special invite one. And that's closer to November or December, I think. All right. Well,
that's super cool. I'm a little jelly about going to a con, but it's just a long way for me. The one time I went to Nova, it was I think it was a 10-hour plane ride.
That's brutal.
So, yeah, I mean, like, entering argument to get anywhere is 6 hours from here. Just to get to California, it's 6 hours on an airplane. So, you just get used to it. But I would love to be able to do that more often, but it's tough with, having to take time off work and you lose a whole day going each direction. Yeah. Or at least you go in one direction. Going east, you lose a whole day. Leaving Hawaii, you generally leave at night and then get there in the next morning. And if you have to connect, it's a whole thing. So, yeah, hopefully more of that next year, or maybe the year after. Also, because I got out of the military last year and went from being very senior with all kinds of saved up leave to none. So, a little hard to take off time when you don't have any saved up vacation.
Yeah, I understand that because I got one of those jobs where like I have to work here before I get any vacation. So like I'm just working for a year.
Yeah. Well, I see in our show notes that you probably hit on the same thing I did. eBay is popping right now with Dark Angel parts. Like I was on there a few months ago trying to just browse and keep in touch. No, not a whole lot. Like Deathwing Command Squad's hard to come by. Ravenwing hard to come by. Yeah. Attack bikes. You can't get attack bikes. Now's the time. Yep. There's like I saw Samael on there.
Got me some.
Like Deathwing Command Squads, all kinds of stuff is up on eBay right now. So I did last night, I didn't even know we were going to do this segment for the show, but a couple days ago I picked up a Scout land speeder, a land speeder Storm, because I've got some, now that I've got a few more games of Ninth under my belt and I really kind of see where it's going, I want to be able to push out, take objectives, and that thing's ridiculous movement and the fact that it can disembark scouts afterwards so they can jump out, start doing actions, really push out to get that Arteris data and all that kind of stuff is good. I like that functionality. So I picked up one of those and some extra bits for Contemptor Volkite. I actually picked up Contemptor Volkite like 5 months ago, and I built one. And then I started hearing everybody talk on the podcast circuit about Contemptor Volkite. I played it once. I didn't roll any sixes to wound. I didn't do any mortals, and then it got aced by a bunch of Necron shooting. Ooh. But I can see the attraction. I am excited about it. I think it's a good tool. I don't know if it's the right tool for where we're going, but we can talk about that more in the future.
Yeah, and I think the Scout transport thing's pretty sweet too, because you can shoot out of it, and it's like the only Space Marine thing you can do that with. So if you're
I don't ultimately know how useful being able to shoot out of it is, but well, I guess if you loaded a bunch of snipers up into it, and then they can shoot out of it. Once again, I guess you would save the points on having to buy them camo cloaks if you just buy 2 points to buy a sniper rifle. The scout snipers aren't super effective, I don't think, in this edition, because bodyguards are everywhere. Yeah. So it's like the super lookout, sir. But I'd probably be more inclined just to give them either shotguns or close combat weapons and drop them on an objective and be an action monkey.
No, and I can see that too. I just like rubbing it in on like my roommate that's adamant that Space Marines could do everything everybody else does but better, as he sits there playing his Drukhari, and I'm like, yep, I can even play the open top transport game because Scouts. Yeah. But yeah, the key thing here is so if you go to the Frontline Gaming secondhand store, that's where I like to go to get stuff, and I'm sure you've probably been there too before, Heath. And right now, some of the deals, because I had to go back and double check because I bought some of this stuff, so it's not there anymore. And just to see if they've added anything else, but you can get a Devastator squad for about $25, $35, Assault Intercessors for about $20, $25, Hellblasters are $25 a squad, so you still got a lot of those Dark Imperium box guys are still floating around. Is basically where that's coming from. You still have...
I'll tell you, I am hype on Hellblasters right now. I played a game a couple weeks ago where I ran 2 squads of 5 Assault Hellblasters with 2 Impulsors and a unit of Blade Guard.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And it's just okay, well, whatever you need to push forward, put it into the transport, and then moving an Impulsor 10 or 12 inches, however far it goes, I don't remember, jumping out 3 inches, and then those Assault Hellblasters being able to shoot 24 inches does some work. You can really develop your position. You can push them up to the midboard, drop them out into a building, or post up behind a building, and being able to spike their damage to 3.
Oh yeah.
Really gives you the ability to. I think Orc buggies are one of the things that's going on out there a lot. So, and Assault Hellblasters at Shrink 6, it's all you need. So I'm really into that unit, and they're not quite the... You can use them on turn 1, put them almost anywhere at the same places you would put a unit of drop intercessors, so plasma intercessors. So, and 5 of them gets you 15 shots, which is just about the same as a unit of 3 assault intercessors, or 3 plasma inceptors.
Oh yeah.
For not many more points. And you can use them on turn 1. So,
and that's pretty good. And then you can still, in terms of things that are still available, you can still get those Dark Vengeance tactical squads, $18, $20. The not the attack bikes, but the regular biker squad that was also in that box for about $24, $30. If you want to go and play some Outriders, you can get them for about $30 still. So some leftover Indomitus box guys or the starter box guys, people got those out there. And then if you got hold of Shadow Spear, there's still some Shadow Spear Infiltrators available, about $25 a squad. Intercessors, $20 from Dark Imperium. There was a drop pod on there for $26, which I remember when there was a period where nobody could get drop pods. They were gone, and now they're back. And they still do the same thing they did back when everybody wanted them. It's just everybody kind of moved on from the gimmick, but it's not a bad gimmick. It's still useful. And then
I really, I really think that the Dark Angels have a significant use case for drop pods, like being able to drop Azrael with his 4-up invul bubble in the middle of the table to all of a sudden give your stuff jumping out of a impulsor or whatever a 4-up invul save. Yeah, that's pretty spicy. Or drop them in your opponent's backfield with a couple of small units of company veterans to get Octaria stata, or maybe drop a librarian in the back to do a thing. I don't know. Let's say there's a thing there.
Well,
hell, put them in your Devastator squads.
Yeah, that's been the big one, and that I've even experienced with that myself, is the dropping a Devastator squad out of a drop pod. That way they're protected. They're not going to get shot off the board, and they come in where you need them. They have line of sight whenever they have to have line of sight on, and you just light them up. And if they got multi-meltas like the ones I have had, you drop them within 12 inches, so that way they can get that bonus damage, and you just light them up.
Yeah.
And then the Terminators, also from Dark Vengeance, are available for about $25, $30 for a squad of 5, which, if you remember when the book first came out, you could not buy Terminators to save your life. They were gone. Yeah.
I think either meta chasers are kind of moving on, or maybe just the market's corrected, caught back up. But hey, I bought I bought all my Terminators back in 5th edition when Apocalypse came out. I must have spent hundreds of dollars on Terminators, thinking I was going to field the whole first company. But I've moved on a little bit since then. But no, I'm into relic Terminators now with with the little lightning claws. But no, a good old Terminator squad, nothing. That's definitely a good thing to have. You should have some of those as a Dark Angels player.
They're still good, and I think and just keep your eye open for Vanguard or Blade Guard vet squads, because I picked up one for $30 that I started converting over for Dark Angels.
Oh wow!
So,
oh wow!
Yeah, so they were already like contrast painted to be Deathwing guys too. So although I kind of painted over the contrast because it's not very thick. So, and I do a lot of dry brushing. I was afraid the dry brushing would just take it off, so I just restarted.
Yeah, I was trying to do. I went through a phase about a year and a half ago where I was trying to use contrast and everything. It's got its use cases. Ravenwing bikes is not one of those use cases. Yeah. So I just went back and airbrushed all my Ravenwing over in last month. But yeah, no, there's if you want to be mean, like 15 Dark Angels Blade Guard are 3 squads of 5 are going to give somebody fits. Or just bring 3 squads of 6 and combat squad them into 6 squads of 3. And it's going to be even harder to interact with.
Yeah. So,
and we can talk more in the main segment about where we think the psychic phase is going, but yeah. And hey, I'm telling you, those Outriders, a lot of people have moved on from Outriders unless they're Deathwatch, but I really think the Outriders have a use case. Like they're a big base. They have just a crazy amount of output. They have 19 attacks on the charge, and you can hunt them forward. And I got them from my side of the board to the other side of the board on a Dawn of War deployment, and flipped an objective on turn 1. And 19 attacks, reroll all hits, reroll all wounds with Righteous Repugnance.
Yeah.
There's something there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I've just thought about my problem is that people see them, and I've always just run one squad of them, but with the price point low right now and the fact that no one's used to them because no one's played with them since the beginning of the edition, I'm thinking about just going all in and running 3 squads and being like, here it is. This is what it is. You can't kill them all.
I don't know if I'd run 3 squads. I think 2, and then maybe get those Dark Vengeance Bikers, because ultimately those Dark Vengeance Bikers, if you put 5 of those things down, you get more wounds that are divvied up kind of in a more beneficial way. 5, 4 models with 3 wounds plus an attack bike. You get more shooting, and you can put a Thunderhammer on the Sergeant,
right?
And you can give two melta guns on the guys, or and everyone else gets a chain sword. And they're relatively cheap. Black Knights just keep failing me on how expensive they are, vice their damage output. So regular bike squads, I think, do have there's a lot of value there for the points.
That's good. Well, speaking of how things are playing, looking at MetaWatch, It's some kind of dark reading for us Dark Angels players because the top tables for the last couple months have not included any Dark Angels lists. We had an ad mech list when the Florida Open back in August, the GT there. The win rate, according to Goonhammer's August meta review, and it hasn't really changed when their September one came out either, was that the Dark Angels are sort of at a 53% win rate, which really isn't that bad. You're winning over half your games competitively.
That's actually perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Like, average, you want all factions in a game like this to be 50 plus or minus like 5? And on the high side of 50?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah. It's just when Drukhari are like 66%, that's where like maybe you might feel the bad.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's interesting, they found statistics that Sisters of Battle have a 63% win rate against Dark Angels.
I could see that. You would think that they have a lot of the tools necessary to kind of bypass a lot of our strengths.
Yeah.
Squads of Zephyrim charging, they just have so much output, and they're at strength 4, which makes transhuman irrelevant.
Right.
If we still had the old stand firm, that would be a different story. But and they have just so many MSU capabilities and the ability to generate mortal wounds. So there's a real they could be tough. I've gotten lucky against them a couple times, but it was I think it was luck. So,
and sort of leaning into what our main segment is looking about how at Secondaries, the faction Secondaries that they had in the Meta Watch from Goonhammer this month had Stubborn Defiance for Dark Angels. It was 69% of the time it was picked, which is pretty nice, with the 10.6 point average per game. And then Death on the Wind got picked about 15% of the time by Dark Angels players with the 10.1 average. I am not one of those people because I can't score any of that kind of points with either of those. What I found funny is that Martial Interdiction, which is the one where you pick an enemy character and you fight them and you kill them, you get a bunch of points. That only gets picked about 4% of the time, and it only averages about 7.5 points. And that's the only one that I've ever been able to do, and every time I pick it, I get max points. So I don't understand...
Really?
I don't understand why I can't make my Dark Angels army work like everybody else's, but it doesn't. It refuses to behave like everything else in the meta. So I don't know what I'm doing, but that's just been my experience so far.
Oh yeah, let's talk about more a little bit later.
Yeah.
So
in terms of results, we had the Normal Blokes GT, which I believe was in Australia, based on the fact they were talking about BCP Down Under, and Braden Kirby Francis.
And it's called Blokes.
Blokes. Oh, Normal Blokes. Got me. See, I don't speak that dialect of English, which I could go on forever talking about different dialects of the English language, because I find it interesting how this language, everyone makes fun of it all the time, but it's like there are literally people in other parts of the world that speak the same language, and we can't understand each other because the language is that different. And I find that hilarious. But Mr. Kilby Francis here, he played Dark Angels. They didn't have a list listed on Goonhammer because he was sort of in the also ran section. He got 7th place, but it says by his description he was running Deathwing Crunch, which I'm assuming he's running, Deathwing Terminators of some nature. And then he had the Talon Master, which we all know what Talon Master that is, and then a Volkite Contemptor. So that goes back to what you were talking about earlier, Heath, about you having a Volkite Contemptor. That's starting to be a thing again. And then there was the Carnage Here We Go Again Lads event, and there was a 4th place Dark Angels list there with Pablo Pradas, but Pablo did not upload his list in a way that Goonhammer could look at it, so we have no idea what he did to get 4th place, but he did. So congratulations to those two gentlemen for making it into the article at their events, because just even getting into the top 10 at a GT is pretty impressive. Like, considering the London GT, I went and looked at that earlier, there's almost 600 people in that event. And the Vegas team tournament's going on too. I have some friends out there playing in that, and there's like 25 tables of people playing these 5v5 team events. So there's all sorts of tables out there too.
They said there's over 50 teams of 5 each. It's a big event.
Yeah.
So Yeah. In case you don't know what Volkite Contempters are, it's a relic contemptor. So from the Forge World book, it's 140 points base for the hull, and they come with 2 heavy plasma cannons, which I don't mind. I actually have a couple on the way. Their heavy plasma cannons are D3 shots each. They're just 2 damage plasma cannons that are D3 shots each. But you can swap them out for twin Volkite culverins. So for 5 points each. So for 150 points, you can get a Contemptor hull. So T7, like 9 wounds
5 up invul.
with 5 up invul save, -1 damage, and it's core. That's the thing.
Oh yeah, that's really
Relic
good.
Contemptors are core. So Volkite culverins are heavy 8 each, so 16 shots.
Ooh.
Strength 6, AP nil, 2 damage. And if you roll a 6 to wound, it triggers Immortal.
Okay.
In addition. So 16 shots, and if it's core, so assume you stand still, you're going to hit on 2s because you're a Dark Angel, +1 to hit. So you're going to hit with everything. You're probably going to be in range of a character to get the reroll, or you just pop Wisdom of the Ancients to get a reroll for yourself. And you're going to get 14 or 15 hits, and then you just look for mortal or for 6s. So, and with that many dice, you should generate on average 2 to 3 mortal wounds per roll. 2 flat damage and strength 6. Strength 6 is ideal for killing big hordes like Scutari or Sisters, assuming they don't pop their transhuman physiology stratagem. 2 damage is great for killing orc buggies. It's great for killing Drakari transports. It's just a really optimal profile for almost anything. And you can. So I ran this in a game, and he just stood in the middle with all my characters, so that when my Deathwing rolled out, they've still got a big tough vehicle to look out there for them, and generate. And he can trigger off the rerolls. He's a great target for Azrael's Brilliant Strategist to roll him back a Doctrine for 3 turns in a row. So those Volkites are always -1. You can put a Cyclone missile launcher on him. So there's the Cyclone missile launchers Yeah, the Cyclones are a big. They're 25 points, so it turns into 175 points. But I don't mind that. No. I mean, I really don't. One of the downsides is they are. They have the relic rule with martial legacy, so they cost a CP to bring as well as the points. So, but I know there are Marine players out there running 2 or 3 of these things. And they were talking on, I think, Forge the Narrative the other day about how people would think they're kind of starting to fall out of favor because there's so much -1 damage out there. You know what? I'm still cool with bringing one of them. I think the Dark Angels interact with it really well because of the +1 to hit, because of the core, because the Brilliant Strategist is very effective on it, and you're going to take Azrael, so you have the command points to spend on it, and he's going to need something if it's not that's other than a Talon Master to use his Brilliant Strategist on. It might as well be a Volkite Contemptor. And I was just cruising around the other day. One of the things I love about Wahapedia, I don't know if you can talk about Wahapedia since you've worked for Games Workshop now, but our boys over in the Russian Federation, Wahapedia does a great job of cross-referencing a lot of stuff. So the only other data sheet that uses twin Volkite culverins is, guess what?
Probably like a Leviathan or something ridiculous.
No, Leviathan's got some ridiculous stuff. That is true. I've got a use case for Leviathans, but it's called a Land Raider Achilles.
Wait, is that the one that's got the Thunder Fire Cannon the one with the Inbuln? Or the Thunder Fire Cannon?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my buddies ran one of those recently at an event I was judging, and people are like, wait, that's a Land Raider? What does it do? It's like, it has an Inbuln, and it has an indirect fire gun, and people are like, this thing exists? And I'm like, apparently so.
Oh, yeah, it does. So I ordered more Volkite culverins because I want to build one.
There you go.
It's 300 points. So a Land Raider Achilles is 300 points. But that's not that much more expensive than a regular Land Raider.
No.
I actually even looked at a regular Land Raider. I couldn't even tell you. Actually, hold on. I'm going to look this up because I need to know. I need to know what the delta is.
Yeah.
Part. I didn't have this ready. Land Raider. Open a new tab. Shout at me. All right. A regular Land Raider is 265. right?
Okay.
If you throw the multi-melt on top, it's basically 300, right?
Yeah.
So Land Raider Achilles gets you a pair of twin Volkite Culverins, so the same thing, heavy 16. It's not core, clearly, it's a Land Raider.
Yeah.
But it has 16 wounds, a 2-up armor save, a 5-up invul save, and it comes with a Thunderfire cannon on its head.
That's pretty good.
And the Thunderfire cannon has either the indirect fire mode, or it has a direct fire shatter shell mode, which is heavy 4, strength 8, -2, 3 flat damage.
Oh God, that's horrible.
And it also has a transport capacity of 6 Dark Angel infantry models that are not Primaris, but
yeah,
you could put 3 Terminators in here, or 5 Dude Bros. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But I said I don't hate it. It's 300 points, but
the guys that I saw,
it's a 5-up. Yeah,
I understand. The guys that I know that play with
Yeah.
it, they love it. They think it's great, and they throw a Tech Marine in there to help keep it alive and give it +1 to hit, and everything else
Right.
is stupid. But
Yeah.
it's not a bad deal.
yeah. You can stand still; it gets +1 to hit. You can move it, get a +1 to hit from the Tech Marine. You can heal it. I mean, you can. I think there might be something there. I really do. I think there might be something
All right,
there.
everybody. There is a Dark Angels Land Raider on the Frontline Gaming secondhand store. I've seen it there, so if you want one,
I
go
looked
get
at it yesterday. It's actually very nicely painted. It's got this awesome like stripe down the side with a big decal in the middle.
And there are a lot of Predators too.
I've got a Land Raider in my case.
Let's go.
I used to have 5 Land Raiders because once again, I played like half the freaking first company in Apocalypse back in the day. But I don't want to take that Land Raider and like chop it up to put Volkite on it. So I don't know. Maybe that'll be my monthly challenge. I don't know if I can make that, but yeah.
Oh, I mean,
I don't know. I think it's just it's got me thinking like a mad lad. That's all I'm saying. Anyway,
that's the best. That's the one thing I like about a lot of these Forge World models is that, or things that are resin cast, is that on the hobby side, like instead of having to deal with prices or resins, people are like, how can I just like chop something else up to make that? Like I've had so many crazy ideas of how to make Thunderfire cannons without the resin. Instead of paying $80, way over the odds for the old Peter ones, or buying the flimsy resin, it's like I'm just going to go with plastic ones.
I had 2 pewter ones 2 years ago because I played my guy. I used the regular Space Marine Codex in 5th edition because the Dark Angel ones suck so bad, and because we didn't have access to Thunderfire cannons in 7th or 8th edition. I sold them to a buddy of mine, and now I'm regretting that, but that's fine. So, yeah. Anyway, whatever.
All right.
Sorry, I went off on the thing.
That's all right. Well, we're ready to do the next thing, which is our main segment, which is picking secondaries. So this is where we're going to kind of culminate some of the stuff we've talked about, where we've talked about some of the, the new Land Raider, or the new, what is old but is now new Land Raider, this Land Raider Achilles that everyone's discovered that can survive in the high damage, high strength world that we live in since 8th edition, where like having an invuln is basically necessary for a large tank vehicle thing to survive. Looking at you Imperial Knights, looking at all the Eldar vehicles that have invulns. If you don't have one, think about why do we run Contemptors instead of regular Dreadnoughts? Well, because Contemptors have invulns. Like, the end of story, right? That's just where it is.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, let's not. I mean, it's okay. You do have access to a Space Marine psychic power that can give a 5-up invul, but that means you're not taking your Dark Angel psychic powers.
Yeah.
And you're also relying on, you're not going to be able to have access to it on the first turn if you don't go first.
Yep.
So I'm less inclined to do that.
So thinking about all those kinds of things, how are we going to play into this, the new the 2021 secondaries have been out for a while, but we were talking before the show started, Heath, and you seemed to feel like there was like a shift, like you felt like something was about to happen that has not happened for a long time. Getting those Lord of the Rings vibes from in this segment. And what do you think they're going to be the more powerful secondaries that we need to be thinking about as Dark Angels players going forward?
All right. I think that the meta is really starting to kind of stabilize. Everyone down into the point where everyone is taking MSU, and everyone's just kind of realizing it's an objective game.
Yeah.
So, my usual opponent plays Necrons, and they have, it's a board control army, and it's really hard sometimes to push back against that level of just bodies. So a lot of people, I think, are taking Stranglehold, which is a great one. It says score 3 victory points at the end of your turn if you control 3 or more objective markers and more than your opponent. So if you have the ability to, 1, project OBSEC bodies, or 2, maybe remove OBSEC from people,
right?
Hey, that's things we can do.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can cast spells that take off people's OBSEC. You can use the Phobos Reaver Lieutenant to move and turn off people's OBSEC. Maybe you also give them Rights of War. I tried that once. It's cute, but it's CP intensive.
Yes.
But if you give a Reaver Lieutenant Rights of War, so he generates OBSEC, and you give him what's that relic that increases the range of your auras by 3 inches?
Oh yeah, that one.
The Vox Espiritum.
Yeah.
Vox Espiritum. Yeah. So then when you turn on 2 CP in the command phase, you turn on his Reaver armor. That his 3-inch debuff OBSEC turns into a 6-inch debuff OBSEC. So all you got to do is get him on an objective, and you own it. You have it. There's nothing they can do about it. So then, but it happens in the command phase. My initial plan was, what if I move him up, jump out of Impulsor, and then use the Phobos Librarian to move him another 12 inches? But you can't use the stratagem if he's in the Impulsor at the beginning of the turn. But still, if he moves, advances, and then the Phobos Librarian temporal corridors him, you could potentially throw this guy 20 to 24 inches pretty reliably, and then his aura extends another 6 inches.
That's pretty good.
That means he just moves onto a board, onto an objective, flips it for you. It doesn't matter if they have multiple units. He just flips it because it's an aura, and then you have bikes that either advance or full throttle up there to support him. And now your bikes are OBSEC. Doesn't matter because they're next to a character with Rights of War.
Right.
So the only thing bad about that, so that's a great way to get Stranglehold. The only thing bad about that is Stranglehold is in Battlefield Supremacy, and you know what else is in Battlefield Supremacy?
Oh, engage on all fronts.
Yeah, and?
I gotta look through my...
What did people take 70% of the time?
Oh, that deploy Octarius data or whatever?
No, Stubborn Defiance.
Yeah, that's right.
Stubborn Defiance. So you just have to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Right? If you want to play Terminators, you're going to take Stubborn Defiance, right? You're going to build your army around a brick of 10 Terminators that sits on objectives, and y'all can just go sit and spin. I don't care what you're going to do.
Yeah.
I personally don't think that's a super interactive playstyle, because what you do with that army is you have 30 Terminators, you take Stubborn Defiance, sit on your home objective, and then you go take Oath of Moment, you go sit on the center objective, and hey, I'm going to score 30 points. That's all there is to it. So, but I'm not a huge fan of that.
Too, that as Space Marines players, we do have access to 2 different sets of faction secondaries, which nobody else does, and no one seemed to think that needs... Well, people think it needs to be corrected, but no one that actually matters thinks it needs to be corrected.
So, what do you mean? What do you mean by action secondaries? You mean like just secondary tables?
Well, yeah, like the access to 2 different secondary tables. Like you have the core codex one, and then you have the supplementary one, and the Eldar don't have that, Gar don't have that. Nobody else has that. Well,
yeah, they're not going to. You're right.
And
so
Chaos is the only one that'd be close enough, but even then, like Death Guard don't get access to, will not get access to the core Chaos book and theirs. They're just going to have theirs. Same thing with Thousand Suns, and if anybody else gets a book, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, so the Battlefield Supremacy in the main Space Marine rulebook is called Shock Tactics. And
okay, yeah.
That's the one you get 3 victory points at the end of the battle round if you flip an objective. So not reliable enough to not take Stubborn Defiance or Stranglehold.
Yeah.
I really like to have secondary objectives that resolve at the end of my turn, so I have full control over them. So, but Stubborn Defiance is the only one of those that I'm kind of hot enough on to take over it. So, what about you, Bailey? What's your favorites?
Well, I've come to like this idea of having the deploy teleport homers, especially now that teleport homers let you, because I think that's a shadow tactics one. So I think that's one that's
it's a shadow op. Yeah,
it competes with the retrieve Octarius data, which I know a lot of people are big fans of. I remember back when it was deploy scramblers, and that was my thing, and I built a whole list around it with drop pods and vets. But I've actually started to lean more towards the teleport homers because you can use bikers, and Dark Angels are one of the only factions that has biker characters that aren't captains. So your Dravenwing champions and your apothecaries are useful because
does it say no characters?
It does not.
It does not say no characters. I missed that. That's cool.
And so the idea
that's really cool.
Because the idea is you have to have the whole squad wholly within so many inches of your enemy's deployment zone or in their deployment zone to use it. And so the problem is if you use like Outriders with their big bases or your big squad of bikes, it's really hard to kind of get them all in there even with some of the movement shenanigans. Just to score points, whereas if you have these characters, a small dude on a bike, he just kind of flips over within 24 inches and starts deploying teleport homers for a few points, and then on the next turn, zips into the back corner of the enemy deployment zone and then starts dropping in points. It's not so bad that way. So that's sort of something I've been looking at and trying to, sneak a champion in or, maybe run that second apothecary in. On a bike just to try and have one of them run around and do this, because even then if it's an apothecary he's more expensive than the champion, or if you ran the guy with the banner, the standard bearer one, the ancient, the bonus there is that they have abilities that are not affected you're not trying to fight with them, right? Like with the champion you're trying to fight with him, so if he does an action he can't do what he's supposed to do. Whereas if you have an apothecary, he's still giving up his little invuln or his feel no pain bubble.
Feel no pain bubble.
Yeah, the ancient is still going to have his banner and do his banner thing. If he's still doing an action, like he's still serving his purpose for the army while he's stuck doing an action. So I feel like those are probably better options. And I think the ancient's cheaper than the apothecary, so it's probably the better.
I think
option.
it is too. So ancient, yeah. So one of the things to observe here is that, so I just looked up the rules for actions. So you can declare a unit will perform an action, providing it's not within engagement range and it did not advance or fall back. Okay, so I think that Full Throttle interacts well with this because Full Throttle doesn't require you to advance. So the stratagem Full Throttle.
I don't know. Let's just check that, because I think if you didn't advance, it makes you advance, and if you've already advanced, then you don't get to advance again.
I know it didn't used to.
And again,
I'm going to look.
I know they've changed it too, so this is how you know that we're serious about this, is that if you're watching...
Oh, no, it has to be after your army advances. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Because in the index, you couldn't advance. So it says after you've advanced, you immediately normal move up to 12 inches. Okay, so that means you can't do that and do an action, but 14 inches ain't bad.
No.
Especially if you hunt at the beginning of the game. I don't know if I'd do that. That's a lot of CP, but you don't want to leave them out there to get all whamped. So I think this is the use case for like those smaller units of bikes.
Yeah.
Because you want your Outriders are 150 points. You want them doing a thing. But like a small unit of 3 bikes, that's like 90 points.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So it's not really that. That's not much. So yeah, so you can have them just go around it. Hey, I'm going to do an action. Hey, I'm going to do an action. Or maybe they full throttle to get behind cover and the next turn do an action. Right. Do the thing. So, but I really like the idea of the character. That's a good idea. And I think the Ancient probably is the right guy for that. because the ancient can do. I'm actually a big fan of the taken ancients for martial exemplar. Sorry, no, not martial exemplar. Steadfast example. That's the one. Yeah. The chapter ancient specific one that is double obsec.
Yeah.
It's an aura for double obsec. Everyone's obsec, and then everyone who's already is double. So him plus a unit of bikes is, screw you double obsec, which is great.
I'm just looking up what he's 100 points. The champion's 70 points, so he is still cheaper. But so I guess if you're trying to be points efficient on the action monkey, he's 70 points compared to 100. But he's not supposed to just sit there and do nothing. He's supposed to go fight enemy characters, which if you do take the martial interdiction one, he is fantastic for picking up points on that. And because he's Ravenwing, if he fights and kills whatever he's fighting, then he can run away, right? So
he just run away.
Exactly.
He just run away.
So you go in, you kill someone, you run away, and then you're like, I score 15 points.
The only downside to that is, does he have Inner Circle?
Yes. All those guys in in that Raven Wing have Inner Circle. At least
the Raven Wing characters. You mean.
Those characters do, at least. I'm pretty sure they do.
Because I know Martial Exemplar requires you to, or that one, the Martial Interdiction requires you to have. Yep, there it is. Raven, yeah. So I've used the Raven Wing Champion before. I actually really like it because the Martial Exemplar gives him and an aura of reroll charges.
Yep.
So that's great. He's got a good combat weapon. He rerolls, I think, wounds?
Yes, against enemy characters.
No, hold on.
Yes.
So against characters, he fights first.
Yep.
And because he's Inner Circle, against characters, he rerolls wounds. So that's like the other part. Oh wait, no, that's a Deathwing thing.
Yeah, and we forgot that he moves everything.
We're
thinking about those the teleport homers. Don't forget that in Devastator Doctrine, everybody moves an additional 4, so you get 18 inches turn one.
Additional 3 inches, yeah.
Oh, yeah, 3 inches. Yeah.
So yeah, my only complaint about Martial Interdiction is that if you say I want that character, they're just like, all right, they're just gonna go stick the character in the back and hide him. I guess it depends. Like if it's his, smash boss, this is my dude who I rely on, like a keeper of secrets or something.
Mortarion.
Maybe, or Mortarion. Maybe he won't, but
yeah. I have to admit,
I hesitate to give someone that level of control over my secondaries.
And the only time I've used that have been in games where that was the case. Like I picked the Orc War Boss that I knew was coming forward because he had to, because there's no other way for him to play his list except to move his War Boss closer to me.
The speed boss, yeah.
And then the other one was against a
Tyrannid
player that had a Swarm Lord, and it was the only Psyker in his whole army. And he took secondaries where you stand in the middle of the board and do the Psychic spell so that you get points. So he obviously was going to move his...
Why?
Yeah, that's just what he did. So he obviously...
Why would you do that with a Swarm Lord? Okay, never mind. I'm cool. Whatever.
Yeah, well...
We're not... All right. Okay. No, all right. So I also...
You got to find that
I also like Teleport Homers. I'm also a fan of Teleport Homers. I just didn't pick up on it was a no characters because Arcterius Data is no characters.
Yeah.
And Arcterius Data has to be infantry. So... how do you feel about banners for Dark Angels? Raise the banners.
Well, because you have to be infantry to do that, right? Yeah, so you can't just run a bike out and raise a banner, which is sad because we have a guy on a bike with a banner, so it's not like he couldn't do it.
But it can be a character that raises banners.
Yeah, which is helpful.
It does say that. So, yeah.
This is where the drop pods come back in again, because you just drop pod onto some of the neutral zone ones and raise your banner that way. I don't know. I've done it a few times. I remember everybody that was that was a big thing for a while. Everybody took it, and then people refused to take it. Like my old roommate Jacob refused it because he's like, it's dumb. Everybody does it. It's dumb. I don't like it. I'm not doing it. Just sort of on principle. But I don't feel like people are using it quite what it was anymore because I just don't feel like, I don't know. It just didn't seem like maybe the infantry swarms are going to come back and it'll get popular again. It also kind of requires a lot of objectives. So if you're not playing missions with lots of objectives, then it's not as useful because if there's only the 4 objective missions, right? You have one, your opponent has one, and there's two in the middle. So, what are you gonna if you're lucky,
Well,
you're gonna get
you
all
need
three.
how many do you need in order to? You need 3 basically in order to max it.
Yeah, for the.
So here's my thing about that. If you are designing your list to do the I'm a Terminator and I don't care that you exist, which is you take Oaths a Moment, which is in No Mercy, No Respite. You take Stubborn Defiance, which is in Battlefield Supremacy, and then you take Raised Banners.
Yeah, you got your 3 there.
Which is in Shadow Ops. There's I have 3 units of Terminators sitting on 3 objectives, and I do not care what you do. I don't.
Yep.
I just don't.
I can see that. I care because I'm not. I want to go punch things. Like I'm a Ravenwing guy.
I feel you. I feel you. So the thing is, no one's going to stranglehold you because they have to get 3 and more.
Yeah.
And in a 6 objectives game, no one's going to be able to stranglehold you. And if you think you're going to flip an objective on 10 Deathwing Terminators, you have another thing coming. Well, I guess a big unit of Hecatrix Blood Rides can do it, but it's going to be tough. Or
you run into another Dark Angels player that's doing the same thing, and they have all those turn off OBSEC, turn on OBSEC, but. Yeah. You're literally why sit around and worry about the mirror match when it hasn't happened? Mm-hmm. That just doesn't happen as often.
Well, you worry about the mirror match when you're the leading army in the meta, which we're not, so that's fine. Okay, how about Octarius Data? That's the other really popular one. Octarius Data is the old Deploy Scramblers. So basically, you have to get an infantry non-character unit to do an action in each table quarter of the board, and you have to. So basically, it's once per turn. Right, and if you do it 4 times at the end of the game, you get 12 points. So easy to do it in your turn, in your 2 objectives. Hard to do it in your opponent's. So if you do it in 3 of them, you get 8. If you do it in 4, you get 12. Well, what do you think?
Well, I enjoyed running the list that did Deploy Scramblers. So, I would enjoy running this, but I would definitely build some things to do it specifically. Like I would have guys in drop pods, and that's how I would. And one of the things I found also with doing Deploy Scramblers or even doing this is that I would definitely go out of my way to try and do the hardest ones first. That was always sort of my strategy. And so trying to do it in my opponent's quarters. And then one of the things I've actually found was a lot harder is doing the middle of the board. Go out and do the middle of the board first because it's going to get flooded immediately as soon as the game starts. And then what actually then ends up happening is that I end up doing my deployment zone on the second turn because my opponent sort of pushed into the middle, pushing into my deployment zone. So if I don't do it now, I'm going to lose my deployment zone. And then I ended up a lot of times doing my opponent's last because he or she had pushed into my deployment zone through the mid board and opened themselves up at the back. And then I just drop potted somebody into the back and now I do it. Or I picked up Phobos guys and redeployed them using the guerrilla tactics into their deployment zone to do it.
That's the one I really like is the Phobos guerrilla tactics. I think that a unit of infiltrators or a unit of eliminators is really good for that. I agree. You should do the hardest one first. The problem I've run into this. So I actually ran a Firewing army a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I just said, hey, I'm going to do all Phobos. Let's see what happens. Right, all Phobos, all scouts. And 1 unit of Raven Wing. And I lost, didn't have enough stuff to kill stuff, but being able to just, I pick up a unit of eliminators that had got shot almost to death and drop them, next turn, drop them back on my opponent's board edge. Trying to screen out 1 32mm base is very difficult. Right? Drop them in and do Octarius Data. And that was very effective. So, one other thing I'd like to point out is your Plasma Inceptors, super beneficial. So used to be before a couple of FQs ago, you could drop down from reserves, spend the 2 CP to count as not moving, and then just wreck house. But now you always count as moving when you arrive from reinforcements, regardless of any other rules or stratagems that are employed. So what I'm thinking now is your unit of Plasma Inceptors, they drop in, wherever they're going to drop, and then they can spend 2 CP to do an action and shoot without failing that action.
Oh yeah, that's something else that you could do too. I mean, that's a generic Space Marine strategy.
It's a generic Space Marine one, but it's super valuable for that particular case. And I have at least one game I've played in the last 2 months. I would have won if I had done that, because I dropped Plasma Scepters in, I wiped an entire unit of Necron Warriors, and
they do that.
I had the CP to shoot or to do that and do the action, but I didn't because I was trying to save it to make sure for Overwatch in case the Necron Lord charged me. And if I had just done the action and scored the points, I wouldn't have needed to Overwatch the Lord. So, yeah.
I can see it. Yeah, no, that's definitely one. And I feel like that some of these basic things, it's getting back to basics. That's what I need to, because I've kind of been out of the game for a few months with the move and things. It's remembering that, especially with Dark Angels and Space Marines in general, there's so many back-to-basic things that you can do that make you competitive that people forget because they're just that basic, like having the Rights of War. Like, good grief, you can turn everything in your army into OBSEC. Like, nobody runs that Warlord trait, it seems. Like, very few people will run it. Compared to, like, when it first came out, like, everybody had that, and now everyone's kind of gone away. They've tried to make more, the classic Smash Captains or the Slaplin or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but what about the Captain just buffing everybody into having rights of war, or people were putting it on their Talon Masters so that way you could zip zam around and do stuff like that.
I was gonna say I've seen it on Talon Masters a lot, and that's a good one. Being able to, like, a Raven character, especially that one that can fly, that can just zoop. Hey, look what's up! This objective is mine now. You're gonna charge me? I've got Arbitr's Gaze.
Yeah. Good luck.
With this Overwatch is gonna be painful. So. This is going to be some painful Overwatch for you. And so
so having a stratagem that lets you do these action-based secondaries and still fight is so important, especially when Dark Angels have a lot of good shooting. Because again, imagine doing this with not just the Plasma Scepters, but like if you had a big fatty squad of Hellblasters that you needed them to shoot, and Weapons of the Dark Age, but then also do an action. Like, why not? They can do it. Just things that you would not expect to use as an action monkey just suddenly are way more useful because, hey, for this one turn I can get them to keep doing things.
Okay, so the last one in Shadow Ops is called Investigate Signal, and you would think that this synergizes well with Oaths of Moment. So Oaths of Moment, remember, is you get points for doing one of three things. One, not falling back.
Yep.
Two, destroying characters, vehicles, or monsters, and 3, having a unit within 6 inches of the center of the board.
Yep, all good things that Dark Angels can do.
All great things that Dark Angels could do, except for one thing. If you're going to use your Ravenwing Swift Strike trickery, that's a fallback.
That's true.
So you would fail one of your oaths. Just pointing that out. It does come up. It's happened to me before. But so Investigate Signal requires you to do an action with an infantry unit, but not a character, at the end of your movement phase when you're wholly within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield and no enemy units are within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield. It completes the end of your turn, assuming you meet all those things. So you get 3 points for one. So you get 15 points if you stand in the middle of the battlefield and keep anyone else from being within 6 inches of it. I don't like this. Because if someone moves within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, you have to kill them out of 6 inches of the center of the battlefield while doing an action. And we don't have enough units unless you brought a servitor or like that 2-man Deathwing Command Squad. By the way, 2-man Deathwing Command Squads are superb action monkeys.
Yeah. And the veteran squads
absolutely fantastic.
Too. Like the regular...
Say again?
The company veteran squads are also 2-mans.
Yeah. But Deathwing ones come with the invul saves,
and the transhuman,
and the transhuman, and the two. So just give them both storm shields, put them in cover. They got a 0-up armor save. They got 4-up invul save. They're fine, right? But so I think that someone's just going to move a bunch of units within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, and you're not going to be able to do the action because you can't even start the action. If someone is within 6 inches of the center. It's not like, hey, start the action and then kill everything off, and at the end of the turn it resolves, you're good. No, you can't start the action if people are within 6 inches of the center.
You just got a movement block good, I guess, or really well.
Yeah, so if you can move block, but once again, I don't know.
It's a lot of investment when you could do something a lot easier.
It's a big... You're going to basically have to build a castle in the middle of the board. I'm not saying that we can't do that. I'm just saying that telling your opponent that if they put one toe within 6 inches of the center of the battlefield, you're going to lose 3 victory points. Yeah.
Well, and that's one way to try and get tile players out of their deployment zone, I guess.
Yeah. Fair. Well, remember, the big winning tile lists from 8th edition went and they took center position, like Napoleon. Right? They weren't, and every army in 9th edition is designed to move because you have to. You don't have a choice anymore. So I think this would be good if you're playing Space Wolves, or if you're going to be cheeky and you're going to bring a contingent of Space Wolves and they can all perform a heroic intervention.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think this is a good fit for the Dark Angels.
No.
So anyway, I don't have a whole lot to say about Assassinate, Titan Hunter, or Bring It Down. Assassinate's a great option if they got a bunch of characters. If you're playing against Grey Knights or Thousand Suns, especially Thousand Suns, you're going to take Assassinate. The question I have for you here, though, is based on what's going on with T-Suns and Grey Knights, do you think that the ability to take Abhor the Witch is against those armies warrants not taking a librarian? Are you going to leave Ezekiel at home so you can take Abhor the Witch in those cases?
No, because the Dark Angel's magic is so powerful, and I've been playing long enough that I feel like I remember back in the day that when people would run like in old fantasy, like you ran a character that his sole job was to carry your dispel scroll, so you could dispel spells automatically at some point in the game. Like everybody had a dispel scroll monkey. So, like, you had to have... So, like, with Thousand Suns being in the game and Grey Knights being the new hotness, people are just going to have to start running Librarians again, which means you might start seeing more of the Psychic Secondaries being an option, potentially, even though those guys are going to try... they're going to try and stop you and deny you, so maybe not so much for yourself. But you're going to want to be able to interact with them, right? You want to try and deny their ability to do that, and having, like... We're going to have to start seeing I'm assuming we'll start seeing characters, Deathwing characters that are paragons of the chapter, because they're going to take Watched and something else, because Watched is that once per game auto-deny. It's just going to have to be a thing. Like when they want a Gates of Infinity, their big squad of Terminators on top of your Stubborn Defiance objective and try and clear you off of it, and you're just like, yeah, not today, son.
No. Get out.
Yeah, like you're just going to want it, and that's just how it's going to be.
Okay, so here's the next question. Watched, I was a huge fan of when we could select Warlord traits and relics pregame, and it was hey, I'm playing as Grey Knights, I'm going to take Watched.
Right.
I always had a Deathwing character in my army for that purpose. Now that you have to pre-program it, I'm not as confident. I think because you can take so many Warlocks, you can take like 3 additional Warlord traits between Hero, the Chapter, and not marked for command, but whatever the one, Paragon.
Yeah. Right,
and your regular Warlord trait. So it may be worth leaving that option available to you. But knowing that, and I'm just looking at it right now, every single Deathwing unit can take a 5-point Watcher in the Dark, which gives them a once per game deny.
True.
So my 2 to 3 man Deathwing command squads all have a deny. Azrael has a deny. Ezekiel has 2 denies. Right? My Terminators all have a deny. So is it necessary? And like I said, if you're really that concerned about it, you just take the Calexis, put them in the front of your army, and Grey Knights can go screw themselves. It's like, it's all there is to it.
The big thing for me too, though, is Eldar. Like when Craftworld Eldar get their book redone, like their magic is like super dumb good and synergizes their whole army. Yeah. So like you're going to come back to, like, do not forget that Watched exists, or you can bring all these Watchers in the Dark and how they interact with the Psychic phase, because when Craftworld Eldar come out, like you're going to want to have all this stuff like in your back pocket. and at least know it's there. So like you're saying, like we have to pre-program, like, oh, I have to just stick with this. It's not going to be so bad when, like, there's going to be Grey Knights, there's going to be Thousand Suns, and half the field's going to be
and Harlequins, and
like, you might as well just bring it because you're going to use it every game. And I guess it's fair too with
my Deathwing Jump Chaplain. He's going to have watched. He's going to have watched. Yeah, and Imperium Sword or something like that. But yeah, he's going to have watched. Yeah. So yeah, and then I think chaplains will definitely increase in effectiveness at that point. It's like you can't deny my you can't stop me from shouting.
You can't
from
deny
rap
my
battling
faith.
my litanies. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, I think the ability to turn off OBSEC and Righteous Repugnance are my two favorite spells. They're fantastic. I still haven't got around to trying a three psyker list where I can have like access to all that stuff and other stuff. And honestly, I'm telling you, the regular Space Marine Librarius tree is still really good. Like, hey, like you got problems with invul saves or this and that, like throw a librarian in there and just give him a honestly. Can Phobos librarians? No, just get a Primaris librarian, put him into a pulsar, and like throw him, drive him forward, jump him out, and cast Null Zone.
But to answer your question, yes, I'm pretty sure Phobos can still take generic. They can take anybody's.
Can take Librarius, yeah. Because in that case, he could do his own cast Null Zone on himself, and then cast the Temporal Corridor on himself to jump out of the move forward, jump out of the impulsor, and run an additional 12 inches forward to get the Null Zone where it needs to go, which is so much more effective than the Reliquary of the Repentant. But it has a fail point. So,
or you just have both. Porque no los dos.
Or you just have both. Yeah, I said Reliquary, when it was a flat -1, I knew I was going to get utility out of it. When now it's just debuffed to a 5, I'm a little less good on it. But the Scorpec Lord with a 4-up invul save is enough of a pain in my butt that I'm good. I'm good with it. So, yeah. All right. What else you got to say about these secondary objectives?
Well, I need to get a lot more games, get a lot more practice because this is literally the worst part of my game. I can do everything but this, and I think just a lot of it is just getting the reps and getting used to it. I know that there's sort of two general fields of knowledge on this, and my buddy Chris and I, when we talk, I'm very much of the idea, and you've probably picked it up by now, of I struggle so much that I try and pick 3, and I try and play the same 3 every single game and try and play towards them. Like I tried to do the Octarius data plus line breaker, and it's like I just put guys into drop the drop pod, the guys hop out, and so I'm scoring line breaker and doing that turn 1. And I just kind of beat that to death to the point that people figured out, they're like, look, we're just going to screen you out, and so you have to literally start building lists that do something else because you can't do this anymore, which was a sad day for me.
Also, line breaker doesn't exist anymore, so well, it's falling behind enemy lines, I guess. But yeah.
But the and then so like that's where I got screwed. Like when people started to figure out that like, oh, this is all you have to do, and Bailey's list just like totally fall apart because he can't score. That part sucks. And then there's the other side of it of there are people like my buddy Chris that he's like, yeah, I don't think about secondaries at all when I build lists. I just make lists and then I look at my opponent and go, this is what I can do secondary wise. And there are people that are really good at that. I'm not one of those people, so I have to build lists and do it. That's
a rare talent. That's a mad lad. I usually know 1 or 2 things. I'm always have a hard time picking the third one. And I will generally, like I said, if I put a big block of Terminators in the list, I know I'm going to try Stubborn Defiance. So I'm a fan of like a unit of 10 Relic Terminators. That way I can, if they're OBSEC, because I take the Vanguard squad, then I'll basically make it so I can combat squad them. Because I did this once, and 10 of them in one place, even the fact that they've got the Stormbolters and they can shoot, it's too concentrated.
Yeah.
I should have combat squatted them and left 5 of them to get the thing so I could move the other 5 forward. So I think that's probably my, like, hey, if you're going to do this, put 10 of them, and then like hell, even if you don't take the Vanguard detachments, the Robsec, give them a Deathwing Ancient, with Martial Exemplar or Rights of War, and now they're going to be OBSEC anyway, and they've got the Pen and Remembrance, so you can give them -1 to damage. It's not like don't want to do that. So I kind of think that the Pen and Remembrance is maybe starting to fall out of favor because there's so much damage reduction elsewhere in the meta that I think people are shifting away from it.
Right.
So to just like higher rate of fire, 1 damage. So that's just my opinion, though. I could be wrong. I haven't played against orcs or I haven't played against orcs or Drukhari. I've played as Drukhari, and I tell you, I don't need multi-damage weapons as Drukhari. I'm just going to throw 60 dice at you, and kill you like that. Damage reduction does not a dang thing against Drukhari.
Yep.
So
I felt that from Heath and my roommate, so I know. I know that exactly. I guess the other thing too with the secondary, sort of like a last, like for me, as an overarching thought is, I've started to go on those take things you can at least get 10 points on, and not try and go, oh, they have 5 characters, so I could get 15, or I could take this thing.
Don't get greedy.
And it's always go for what you think you can get at least 10 points on. Or, get at least half the points. That's what I was like. If I know I can get at least 8 doing this, just looking at the list, that's what I'm going to take instead of going for the thing that hopefully I could get max points, because in my experience, I've never got there. And I just need to not...
Okay, one last thing I want to comment on. No Mercy, No Respite, which is, once again, would conflict with Oath of Moment.
Yeah.
No Mercy, No Respite has one called To the Last, which was the old While We Stand, We Fight.
Oh, yeah.
So we used to be real big into While We Stand, We Fight, because you could make your Talon Masters the most expensive thing in the army. They would be hidden by the Deathwing command squads, and you're never going to kill them. Now it's not the most expensive model, it's the most expensive unit. So if you want to take this, it can work, but you have to very carefully design your army to do it. Talon Masters are, what, 180 points?
175, I think.
Talon Masters are 135?
Or 75.
What?
175.
Okay, 175. I would say, oh my god, when did that happen? Yeah, 175. So, your Ravenwing bike squads are going to come out to be a little more expensive than that if you're going to take the 3 attack bikes. So, if you do like a unit of bikes, a attack bike squad, boom, they're base 50, multi-melt is plus 10. So if you do 2 multi-meltas and a heavy bolter, that puts them at 160. So you could take 3 160-point attack bike squads, 3 Talon Masters. That puts you pretty close to 1,000 points. And so just design the army list around that, and it's not a bad way. And then you're going to take probably 3 Deathwing command squads of 2 to 3 guys each. It's not a bad way to live your life, but you have to design the army around that. I guess you could go the other direction and say, hey, I've got a 450-point unit of Deathwing Knights.
Exactly.
Best of luck.
Yep.
let's dance. And that would actually give you motivation to say, hey, look, if you kill this unit, I lose points. Come on.
Come
just
play.
try for it.
Come play.
Just come at me, bro.
The water's fine.
You're welcome to test your assumption that you can kill them on your own convenience. So that one I think requires a lot of very specific list tuning. But it's 2 opposite sides. One, hey, you can't target me because la characters, or hey, I've just got 3 giant brick house units of Terminators, and best of luck with that.
Yeah.
So either way, we can Dark Angels can play that very effectively. So.
Yep. All right.
Well, what else we got?
Well, I think you need to bring out your chaplain that you just showed us, because that was part of the monthly challenge, and you've actually won up me on this, because if I remember correctly, we were just supposed to be building, but you've gone all the way out and started to paint him and stuff.
What? Oh, we were supposed to build it?
Yeah.
Oh crap! I thought it was paint. I cracked 2 nights ago, and the paint was wet on this when we started recording.
Oh wow!
But yeah, sorry, my GoPro I use to record doesn't have super close resolution, but this is based off the Blood Angels Jump Chaplain. So I threw an Assault Intercessor Chainsword on him so I can use the Teeth of Terra. And you see replaced his Blood Angels Crozius with a Dark Angels Crozius. That's a bit I got from a Ravenwing sprue. And then his back cloak is actually off the Legio Praetor model.
Okay.
From the Dark Angels Legio Praetor from Forge World.
It also looks like the one from Samael, too.
Say again?
The one from Samael.
Oh, really?
It looks like the back, like his back bit too.
His little cloak.
Yeah,
it could be. My Samuel model, I got it from a friend already painted, so I didn't build or paint it. But
okay.
And then I put a new helmet on him as well. So it's it's a Forge World Legio Praetor helmet. So it was used as the Angel's Ambit in the 8th edition Ritual of the Damned. But yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with this model. I think it came out well. I tried to learn about some wet blending, like new ways to paint black. I've never been a big edge highlighter, but I tried to do some edge highlighting with black just to make it a little bit more broken up, and it came out okay. I did some wet blending on his backpack to try and leave some definition without just making it super matte. Again, I think it came out okay. I'm no Golden Demon. I'm no Crystal Brush. But I can get it to a reasonable tabletop standard. So.
Oh, that's all. Like people are asking for. It's like it just has to look nice. It doesn't have to. You don't have to like.
Yeah,
break
if you make
bank.
Honest, good faith effort.
Yeah, and it's like
don't freak.
Well, and if it's too crazy good, I would be like, dude, put that in a box. Like, why is that on the table? Like, it's gonna get dropped. Someone's gonna knock into it. Like, you don't want anything that nice on the table because then people are just nervous to play with it. But anyway, I'm gonna give you bonus points on that though, Heath. Since you thought you also had to paint it and you did put the time into that, I'm gonna score bonus points for you on that one. You deserve it.
Fair enough. I'm unsure of the mechanics of bonus points for our system, but I'll take it at least on the moral victory. Yeah. So.
I'll figure out what that is, but just know you're going to get bonus on it. I've decided.
Cool. I think there's at least one or two other this year I've failed. So
there we go.
But
so I did the Deathwing champion, so I'm going to try and get him up here.
Okay.
See how he does. So he's got his halberd. I took like the sergeant back wings and threw him on there because I wanted him to look bigger and more imposing.
That's a good look.
Because he's like it's like a real bird, right? He's got to have his wings up. He's got to look bigger and more intimidating than the average bear, right? So he's got those, and it actually there's like a little they're little latches that they actually pop onto on his back that I didn't they're on all the Terminators, and I'm like, I wonder what these are for. And then I found out it's like, oh, Terminators have these little bumps on their backs so that you can attach wings to them if you want to. I don't think you can actually upgrade his halberd at all into anything else. I think he just gets stuck with it. So like trying to give him the burning blade or anything.
It's just hold on actually
or something.
It's a spear of something. You may be able to mastercraft it assuming it doesn't already have the mastercrafted keyword, or if it's a relic. But ancient Terminator armor, Deathwing champion.
Yep.
Deathwing champion. All right, looking for it.
I know it does a lot of attacks against
Halberd of Caliban. But hey, you could absolutely mastercraft a Halberd of Caliban because it's not a relic and it's not already mastercrafted.
That's good.
So that could be so it's +3, -3, 2 damage. That would make it 3 damage. If it's within engagement range of 10 or more models, he can make 3 additional attacks. Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So if these blob infantry squads keep becoming an annoying thing, like here's your dude, bro. Even though he's a champion who's supposed to fight characters, so that's like where the weapon's kind of silly in a way because he's a champion, so he's supposed to duel enemy characters, but then his sword his weapon only has bonuses against infantry blobs.
Once again, he has the martial superiority rule, so he can fight first against characters.
Yeah. And
he's Deathwing, so in the assault doctrine, he gets to reroll wounds against characters and vehicles.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, hey, all the bad guys, you got to fight through a wave of mooks before you get to them.
That's true.
So I actually don't mind that at all.
And if you can master craft it and give him the +1 damage, then he's basically waltzing around with the Thunderhammer. Then it's a Thunderhammer with extra rules.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a +3, -3. And honestly, you could give him Fury of the Lion, so that if he charges or is charged, or heroically intervenes. Oh, and he can heroically intervene 6 inches. to a character. Yeah, you give him Fury of the Lion, so he's going to be Strength 8.
Yep, that's pretty
when
good.
he on the first turn of combat. That's not bad. With a 3 damage, -3 AP weapon, potentially -4. If you get 7 attacks against yeah, that's cool. He's only got a 5 up invul save, but he's got permanent transhuman. So yeah, I'm honestly like I played with the Ravenwing champion once, and he did a great job, with the exception of he doesn't have an invul save in combat.
Yep, that's the only.
So I honestly think that it might be worth, like I said, don't take a relic weapon on him. Instead, give him the armor and dominus, so we can get a once per game 3 up invul.
Oh yeah, that's spicy.
I think that's probably a good use case for him, or a good strategy for him. Man, I can't believe I missed that that teleport homers doesn't restrict characters. Dang it! All right, I'm gonna do that. That's going on the list.
That's why we do
going
this.
on the list.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Also, Line Unbreakable is super valuable for single model characters, because I'm gonna surround you. Like, that's cool. I don't care. Only those first rank guys is gonna get me. So.
All right, and so for our challenge for next month, I think we talked about earlier at some point today about doing vehicles. So let's do that. Let's either build and or paint a Dark Angel's vehicle, because I think you had stuff to build and I have something to paint.
I've got 3 of those ATVs in a box that one of my lights is sitting on. I've got a tactical war suit. I've got an impulsor half built in my closet. But I know for a fact that what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and build a Land Raider Achilles.
Let's go. Now I kind of want to do it too.
Because I'm just dumb like that. So, man, can I get the pieces to do this? It's all about getting that quad launcher.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I could modify the Land Raider hull I already have. All right, vehicle. I'm going to go on record as saying I'm going to try and do an Achilles, but if I can't get the parts in time, I may have to just do something else. So
my suggestion would be, can you build the quad launcher out of any of the guns from the Ravenwing, Dark Talon, Nephilim jet fighter bits? Because there's like a burst gun on the jet fighter, right? So like the nose gun,
it has a mega. Bold of you to assume that I have any of those parts left. I've got 3 of those aircraft hulls, but I don't have any of the sprues left, I don't think. I'll have to go through my box. Yeah. That's a good idea. I will... Okay. I'll see if I can sort it out.
Yeah, I'll keep in touch with you, because I'm like the king of finding random bits to do things, because I'm always thinking about doing this.
I've got a whole bedroom in my house. It's just my hobby space.
Let's go.
And I got so much random crap around here. Maybe one day we get more followers and people actually give a crap. We'll do a tour of my hobby space. It's just
Cribs
whatever.
with Heath.
Cribs with Heath, yeah.
All right, so let's do that. We're going to build a vehicle or paint one for the next month.
Let's do it.
Going to the community interaction, we don't have, due to the nature and the lack of stuff going on, which, again, I apologize, because a lot of that I feel is my fault, because I've been crazy with moving and all sorts of nonsense in the last couple months. So I apologize for that to everybody on that one. Especially Heath, since Heath and I are paying for this nice service to actually do the podcast, and it's well, we're not using it. Now I feel really bad. But
yeah, it is what it is.
At Gen Con, I was asked the question by my guy Pete. He was the guy that spent the 16 hours on the Intercessor. So shout out to Pete. He asked me at the con what my favorite paintbrushes are. So I here are my paintbrushes, all of them.
Is that an Army Painter wet palette?
It is. And your brushes.
I also have an Army Painter wet palette. so
yep. You want to see, and if you want to see just the madness that goes on inside that wet palette, that's what the inside of the wet palette looks like right now.
Oh yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
But in here, I got some Army Painter brushes. I got the Insane Detail brush and some of the other ones like that. I do have some Official Games Workshop brushes. I like the layer brushes, the small ones. Those aren't too bad for doing some stuff. I found for like my washes, there's some like sort of like cheap random brush. Like you buy like 100 of them at a time for like 10 or 20 bucks.
When you get from like Michaels, I agree.
I like those for my washes. They kind of look like this. I like these to do washes.
For a wash, you want like a brush like with a big belly to it.
Yep.
So I agree with that.
And then there's I think they're the 10. Well, I have a 5/0 brush that I got at like a hobby store, like a art supply store. So it's like got a really tiny head to it that I like doing eyes with. Although this one's kind of beat to death. I need to get a new one. There's like a 10/0 or a 10 point or whatever it's called. It looks like 10/0.
10/0.
Yeah, and then
10/0.
Yeah, that's the brush I like the most for like doing just about everything. Like, because it's small enough I can do a lot of detail, but big enough I can, if I'm taking my time, I can do a lot of areas. I end up buying lots and lots of those to do all sorts of work. So to answer,
so I'm using Kolinsky scale color right now.
Okay.
This is my character brush. They hold such a great point, and they're so good with acrylic paint. I do use a lot of Citadel brushes. I think they're good. They're expensive, but I can get at my hobby store, so I can support my hobby store. And so their medium brushes, their layer brushes are great. Their dry brushes, I'm not a huge fan of. But their layer brushes are good. I like their layer and I like their base brushes. For dry brushing, if you're not just like grabbing a makeup brush from CVS, you're screwing up. That's all you need. Just like a $1 makeup brush from your significant other, or just go to the drugstore and grab one.
Hey,
they're
queens
fantastic.
Are enough of a thing now. Like, no one's going to judge you if you go in there. They're just going to ask you what.
No, just go buy a damn brush, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine, right? Just go buy a makeup. Just go buy a brush. No one cares. It's gonna be fine. I did get some of a set of Monument Hobbies Pro Acryl brushes. I still haven't used the Pro Acryl paint yet because I was trying to move through some other stuff I was doing with the same scheme. But the next squad of Terminators I paint, I'm going to use some of the Pro Acryl stuff. And I got a set of their synthetic brushes. So far, I like them. I do. They're good quality. They're not expensive. It's hard to get natural hair, like sable hair brushes these days because of the COVID. They had to, like, those sable hair brushes actually come from mink, I think, and they had to destroy like millions of mink because they all got infested with COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like this is like literally one of the, like, people were mad about the zombie apocalypse not occurring during COVID. It's like, no, it literally did. It just happened to these little like tiny weasel things.
Yeah, there's little tiny animals that we used to like breed paintbrushes. Like it's sad.
Nuts.
Like, so that's why it's kind of expensive to get natural hair brushes right now.
No, like
supply chain problems, to put it euphemistically.
Tens to hundreds of thousands of animals having to be destroyed at one time, and like Denmark and Belgium.
Millions, yeah.
Yeah.
Denmark, they destroyed like 2 million mink. It was crazy.
And then when their bodies decomposed, it pushed the other ones out of the dirt, so they had to dig them up and burn them. Like literals, like zombie apocalypse in Belgium, or not Belgium, in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like,
anyway,
crazy.
There we go. See how this works. That's my little paint station over there.
Yeah.
And my airbrush hood and my half painted Blade Guard veterans. But no, I've got a little bit of everything. Honestly, to tell you the truth, kind of the brush I would probably recommend for someone as like your first general multi-purpose, the Army Painter Small Dry Brush.
Oh yeah, I got one of those.
Army Painter Small Dry Brush. It has a chisel tip on it, and it's flat, so it holds a great shape. You can use it. Yep, that's the one. That's the little guy right there.
Today
right
on my bikes.
Yeah, that thing is fantastic. I love it. I would paint whole armies with just that brush. I've owned probably 20 of those over the 20-something years I've been playing this hobby. That is just a workhorse of a brush. It'll do flat panels. It'll do small spaces. It'll do dry brushing. It'll do blending. It'll do everything. I love those brushes. The only thing you got to be careful with them is making sure you take care of them. So grab some of that brush soap, either Masters or the Jen's Unicorn stuff. That stuff's good. The Jen's Unicorn stuff that you get from Monument Hobbies is better.
Okay.
and just keep good care of them. And those brushes they're fantastic. They'll do a lot for you. So that's my opinion on the matter.
All right, so there you go, Pete. Hopefully, I'll link you if you don't find this on your own, but you get the shout out, and that's the hobby side on what brushes we like to use between Heath and I. And yeah, and like my big thing is time I go anywhere and there's an art store, I go and I buy brushes, and I try and buy the smallest ones I can because those are the things that are hardest to get sometimes. So that's just sort of how it is. All right, so thank you all for listening to this month's episode of The Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our next episode will hopefully come out in October. All right, I might be moving in between now and October, and maybe I won't be in the basement by then. But the plan is to get one episode in October. I will be at a tournament in October, so I'll at least have some field experience to talk about again, which will be nice. And same thing in November, so that's what you got to look forward to in October and in November. Is that there's going to be some hands-on in the field experience, at least on my end. So please subscribe, like, and comment below if you're watching us on YouTube or listening on your favorite preferred podcasting service. Last but not least, we'd like to thank Purple Planet for the use of their music. Both Heath and I love it a lot. And until next time, I'm Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
And I'm Heath with Table War Hawaii.
Stay loyal, Angels.